We're talking about you today on Easy Rightsizing here on KFOR FM 103.3, 1240 AM. You and me, all of us, we have stuff. And most of you who hear me this morning have too much stuff, because I have too much stuff. Janine Bryant's here from Changing Spaces SRS. There was a point where you had too much stuff. You're in the too much stuff business.
Absolutely. And, it's not a one-time thing. I think that, there's a constant inflow of stuff. So I am by no means perfect either. You kind of have to keep battling your stuff.
Every week you go into, fair to say, nearly a dozen at times, homes where the client has called you up. You introduce yourself, you go to the person's home. Can we go along with you for a visit or two?
Absolutely.
Or summarize a week's worth of visits?
Yeah, it's one of the most interesting and challenging parts of my job at Changing Spaces SRS. So the reason I go into any potential client's home. We do free in-home consultations, and that is partially for the client's benefit so that they can fully understand our services. It's also for my benefit and for the team's benefit so that I can understand the scope of the project and understand exactly what this client needs, what the house needs, and then we send them a proposal on how we can help them and what the cost is going to be. So when people make that initial phone call to Changing Spaces SRS, they usually speak with my operations manager. Ashley Irks is her name, and she's fantastic. Explains our services, answers their questions, and then gets some basic information about them. And then she sets up a free in-home consultation. So then that is where I come in. And so, 8 to 10 times usually during the week, I am in a client's home, and it's such a privilege because I get to be really nosy, and I am just kind of a naturally curious, nosy person. And I have an excuse. I get to go in and I look in all of the cupboards, I look in all the closets, and they show me the rooms that they never show the guests, right? When you go over for a dinner party, you never get to see what's in the basement storage room, but I do. And, when I walk into that door, first of all, you never know what's waiting for you on the other side of that door. And what I'm really doing is I'm on a fact-finding mission, because sometimes these folks call us and they think they want one thing, but what they really need is another thing. And so they call us up and they have an idea of what their transition might look like. And sometimes I can tell them, yep, that sounds great. Here's how we can do it. These are the dates. Here's the price. But sometimes I have to bring a little dose of reality to them and say, that sounds like a nice plan. Sometimes transitions don't always work exactly like that. Sometimes all the dominoes don't necessarily fall in order. So sometimes I have to kind of create a plan for them and help them see their way through this process, because it really is a maze and it can be very confusing and troubling and overwhelming for a client. So I kind of walk them through the process, and I can also help them to understand what's realistic and what's not realistic. Sometimes people, if they haven't bought and sold a lot of homes in their life, they maybe don't have a good idea on how long the process is going to take or all the steps involved in the process. Also, I am certainly not a realtor. I say that qualification several times a week, but I still have my opinions about how fast your house is going to sell. Right now we're in a very hot real estate market, but only in certain sort of price ranges, right? And if your house is in good repair and not bad repair or whatever. And so I'm working with a couple clients right now who have in-ground pools, which is a fabulous feature for some potential homeowners. It's a definite no for other potential homeowners. And we're going into fall and winter season, so it can be a harder time to sell a house with the pool. So we just work with them to not only listen to their story and hear their needs, but I also take a look around at the stuff and I try to calculate how long is this going to take for us to sort through. If we're going to help them move, how long is this going to take to pack and unpack? How long is this client going to take to make decisions? Because I always say that's really the wild card. I can calculate all the rest. But I don't always know how that client is going to react. And that's what I try to determine over the course of usually our 45-minute conversation. How much help does this person need in making decisions? Because that's certainly a factor in how long the project is going to take.
You're good at reading body language.
Yes. I have become good over the last decade of meeting with all of these clients, and they teach me so much. And so I have seen time and time again as people lead me through their house, really how much their stuff really does weigh on them. You know, it is, sometimes we cling to our stuff, especially if you're facing a big uncertain move. We cling to it because we feel like that's going to give us control, or that's going to be a life preserver of some kind. If we've recently lost a loved one, a spouse or a parent, we cling to their stuff sometimes. But there becomes a point where that stuff is no longer a life preserver. It's now becoming an anchor, and it is drawing us down, and it's holding us back, really. You know, I just recently got to finish teaching a easy right-sizing class through SCC Community College. It was a continuing education class. I spoke about it here on this show a few times. And one of the gals really gave me a good insight as to why she feels the need to keep so much stuff. And she talked about her parents and her grandparents growing up in the Dust Bowl. Her grandparents were born in the middle of the Dust Bowl in the 30s. And really, it's almost like a form of inherited trauma. Okay, so she grew up hearing these stories about how her grandparents scraped together everything they possibly could to feed their children to keep them alive. Okay, so they were living that close to the edge of poverty. And so when you grow up with grandparents like that, that informs the way your parents are, and then your parents inform the way you grow up. And that is a family where you do not throw things out because they could have use someday. And that mentality is what kept them alive, and it's what caused them to survive. But now, as time goes on, it becomes maladaptive, and now it's becoming a burden onto that person, because now there are entire rooms of her home that she can't utilize. Now she has a storage unit that she has to actually spend money to save this stuff. So now it's no longer saving you money to have all this stuff. It's actually costing you money to have this stuff. And even if you're not storing things off-site, you know, the clients that we work with, if they are moving and downsizing and they need to empty out their home before it can be sold, that costs money. And so your stuff, in one way or another, it really does have a cost to it.
It's becoming that anchor. That
Absolutely.
You spoke of. The garage is my space. And I went through a purge stage where I got rid of stuff. Of course, I asked first.
Yes.
For most of it. But there was a point after I was through, it took me a weekend, where, and maybe this is just a me thing, you tell me if it is, I would go out and look at it.
Yes. Just behold the glory of it.
But on a Friday, there was no space. On Sunday afternoon, there is space. And on Monday, I would walk out and I would just look at it. And, wow, look at this garage.
And it makes you happy now. Every time you drive into that garage, gosh, it looks nice. And what you maybe didn't even realize before is that before it really was making you unhappy.
It was.
Even if it was kind of subconscious, you knew, oh, I got to tackle that garage, you know, or, oh, every time you try to bring the groceries in from the car and you're tripping over stuff, it weighs on you. And I think that when that stuff, it's cumulative. And so maybe right away it's not so bad, but as the weeks and the months go on, it weighs more and more on you until you finally get so fed up that you really make a clear out. And then you realize, oh my gosh, I feel so much lighter. I can't believe all of that weight that I had been carrying around psychologically in my brain by having all of this stuff around me.
And I've taken your advice, both from our conversations and from your book, Ready to Right Size, about not trying to eat the whole elephant at once.
Yes.
Go out and tackle a corner. I have pieces of wood that I save just in case.
Yes, right.
You know, from casings and baseboards and projects that I've done. That became all-consuming in one entire corner.
Yes.
So I spent an afternoon just doing the wood pile.
There you go. That's how you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time. And at Changing Spaces SRS, we have to take that advice ourselves, because I mean, I'm going to tell you a secret. Sometimes we get overwhelmed when we're going into a client's home. I always say to folks, I'm pretty hard to scare. But there have been a couple times when I have been a little scared and I think, good Lord, how are we going to handle this project? But we just do it one bite at a time, one box at a time. There's no magic wand. I wish I had a magic wand, and sometimes people want me to have a magic wand, and there just isn't. We've just got to tackle it one box at a time.
And can I throw out some more advice? For me in the garage, I just opened up both doors. It was a nice sunny day. Took a Bluetooth speaker outside and put on some favorite music and just went about my business, not with a preconceived speed or an accomplishment goal. Just get in there and start.
Yes.
And if you have a room that's that way, get your phone in there and a Bluetooth speaker and bring up some of your favorite music. Open up some windows, pull up the curtains, and just take it without a goal in mind.
Take it easy. Absolutely. That getting started is the hardest part. And once you get started, I always say set a timer for 20 minutes. And that's what I have to do with myself. I do stuff every day that I don't want to do. You set a timer for 20 minutes. And once you get into it, you just might find that you continue on and you keep going.
And you don't know what's on the other side of the clutter.
Yeah.
I have a room. It's our sunroom. Listeners, I've mentioned this before, my infamous sunroom, that I start peeling away boxes and I find something that I obviously put there myself, but I'd forgotten because it's covered by a box or a quilt or something. And then I peel that back, and that's my incentive to get to that point, to get to the other side of the room.
Right. And when you first built that sunroom, or when you bought that house and you saw the sunroom, did you think, boy, this will be a great place to store all my crap? No. Or did you think, boy, my wife and I can enjoy some iced tea out here? And So, what is waiting for you on the other side of your clutter? It's your life is waiting for you on the other side of your clutter.
So how can people begin? They can get a hold of you either with a phone call, there are websites,
Absolutely.
There's your book.
Yes, so get a hold of us at changingspacessrs.com, changingspacessrs.com. Our phone number is 402-483-0555. I've also got a ton of resources to get you started over at easyrightsizing.com. And my book is called Ready to Right Size, and that is available on Amazon.
And when you go to the websites, you can also hear our past conversations.
That's right.
Particular subjects that may just directly we may be talking right to you.
That's right.
For some of those subjects. So join us here every Sunday morning for Easy Right Sizing.